It is windy, my hair is a mess, but we rock it. So, The Boys just wrapped up its main series a couple weeks ago. And I'm a little late to the party, but it's because I was working on like a script or something like, that I wanted to say about it. But I couldn't land on a script, but I still wanted to talk about it. So here I am, talking about The Boys, and I'm sort of just going off the cuff, telling you my raw feelings. Alright, so season 1 of The Boys was absolutely fantastic, right? That's kind of like a very popular, basic take, right? But I think the show as a whole is great. I think that a lot of what it does is obviously for shock factor, right? Like, like super like sexualized content, very gory, very graphic, right? Most of the time, a lot of that stuff takes away from the show. Obviously, I understand it's a show. The characters, how messed up and deranged and degenerate they are, right? But ultimately, I think the premise of the show, the concept of the show, evil superheroes and stuff is fantastic. Whether or not it's bogged down by shock factor stuff is up for personal opinion, I guess. Bringing me to season 5, though, the finale of the show wasn't exactly well received, right? This final season, and sort of I feel like a lot of shows, lately I haven't been able to wrap up very well. Like Stranger Things didn't have a very good finale, didn't have a very good final season as a whole. And I just feel like a lot of shows are just struggling with the landing part. Now, if I think about what the best conclusion to a show that I can remember is, I would probably go with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So 2 of Vince Gilligan's shows, right? Fantastic conclusions. I actually think I enjoyed the final season of Better Call Saul better than the final season of Breaking Bad, although I think Breaking Bad as a whole is better than Better Call Saul. But I think the final season of Better Call Saul was a peak, top tier television, amazing, fantastic, everything, the acting, the writing, the story, the cinematography, just everything about this final season of Better Call Saul was amazing. But I can't say the same for The Boys or Stranger Things. I guess I can't say Ted Lasso because they're bringing back Ted Lasso for a 4th season. But these great shows that are just kind of bogged down a little bit by the final season. And what makes The Boys' final season and finale rough? Well, I have a hot take, I guess. It's kind of a hot take, because from everyone I see, all the reviews I see, this is kind of a hot take. I think the series finale, the final episode of season 5 of The Boys, is actually a good episode. I think it's a great episode. I think it's the best episode in season 5. I don't necessarily think it's the best season. It's obviously not the best episode in the entire show, but it's a great episode in my opinion. All the character... Hang on a second. Got whatever it was in my eye out of my eye. I think the character arcs were concluded mostly in good ways, and obviously it's not perfect. I'll get to that in a second. But I really think that how the characters came to their conclusions made sense, or at least what the outcome of their conclusion was. So this is your spoiler warning. Obviously, jumping right into spoilers. Good? You good? Don't still want to watch the spoilers? Alright, got it. So, obviously Homelander needed to die, and I think his death was done well. That fight scene between him, Butcher, Ryan, and Kimiko was really well done. I thought it was super fun, and I thought it was obviously Homelander deserved to die for all the terrible things he did in the show. He's one of the greatest TV villains ever, and he deserved to die for what he did in the show. I think him dying a pathetic death like he did, a humiliating, pathetic death like he did, made sense. I think that was a good call. Without his powers, he was nothing. He was pathetic. He was a loser, basically, right? That was a thing repeated throughout the show, including in one of the best scenes in the final season of The Boys, which was Frenchie's death in episode 7 of season 5. And so I think that his death made sense. I also kind of find it funny that The Deep had like more dignity in his death than Homelander did, despite the fact that the entire show has been this like pathetic character, always just trying to seek out approval from Homelander, right? But I think his death was actually more like full of dignity than Homelander, even though it was also like, you know, pretty pathetic to go out by the thing that you led, the ocean, right? And then Butcher, of course, I think Butcher had to die too. I will admit, I didn't see it coming that Huey was going to be the one to kill Butcher, but I guess I'm not really surprised either. I think it was overall like a really good show. Now, Butcher was right? I think Butcher was right. Butcher, yeah, should have released the virus. He was, the superheroes are going to continue to be a problem as long as they exist. So yeah, I agree with Butcher. Release the virus and nuke the superheroes, or not nuke the superheroes, but you know what I mean, like exterminate them. I don't know, maybe that's a hot take. I don't know, but I agree with Butcher on that one. Here's my take though. I've been saying season 5, the finale was great. I think it was a great finale, bogged down by a pretty bad season. So I feel like the pacing of the season was all over the place, right? Like there were times where it felt like something was moving, but then for most of the season, it felt like it was just dragging, like super slow. It was like acting like they had like 20 episodes left in the show when they only had 8 at the beginning of the season. And it didn't feel like the stakes were like increasing as fast as they should have for the final season of this show, right? Now, I don't think that like the show had a lot of filler, because I think even like the one-offs episode revealed character traits, and it killed Firecracker and revealed character traits in this character-driven show, right? So there are two types of stories in fiction and storytelling and movies and shows and all that. There's plot-driven and there's character-driven. And so the plot-driven shows, the plot just happens whether the characters want it to or not, right? The characters are part of the plot and they're part of the ride, and they have to learn how to navigate the plot as it's unfolding and achieve their objectives, and all that stuff. Character-driven shows or stories are, as it says, character-driven, where the story unfolds because of the characters' decisions, right? So the things that the characters do and decide to do and all that determine the plot, determine the outcome of the story in character-driven shows. And The Boys is a character-driven show. So that episode, the one-offs, really revealed character traits that I think helped, you know, feed this character-driven show. Now, I will admit, that was probably the episode I enjoyed the least, but my point is that it's not filler. But yeah, it's definitely dragged, and I think the season finale, the series finale, was great. It was super fun. I enjoyed it. I just think getting to the finale was a little rough. Ironically, I think Stranger Things was the other way around. I think Stranger Things' final season was overall pretty good, but the finale, the final episode in the entire show, was pretty bad. So I just find it, you know, that's two examples of opposite directions. You got the Stranger Things, which had a good final season but a terrible final episode, and then The Boys, which had a bad final season but a great final episode. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about The Boys because it was like, you know, it's a show that's very interesting to me in terms of its premise and its concept, and you know, you don't see something quite like The Boys as often, like, you know, that gets away with that stuff. So I just found the show to be overall enjoyable. I just wish some decisions were made to like focus more on the conflict and the plot. And I think the biggest crime they did this season was hype it up to the point where it made it seem like Homelander was going to be like nuking the world, and that like it was going to be like Doomsday, and like Homelander was just going to like off everybody. They hyped that up so often in the promotional material leading into this season, and obviously that didn't actually happen. It was like about to happen, sort of. You know, you get to the end of Homelander's speech and it seems like he's about to do that, but he gets stopped. But regardless, I think he needed to be stopped. And that sort of brings me to like my one of my final points here is sort of what led me to make this video is a lot of discourse that I see online where people are saying, oh, Homelander should have survived. He should have survived as a regular human with no powers. Are you dumb? Are you stupid? Do you understand anything about storytelling and writing and all that? The dude was evil. The dude was freaking monstrous. He did terrible, terrible things. And you want him to live? There's no world in which a good story would let a character like that survive. I would have actually felt like the entire show, the entire point of The Boys, was entirely pointless if Homelander survived. That would have been so dumb. Ignore the fact that he had a stash of V1 available. Ignore the fact that he had like loads of adoring fans who would have done anything to get him his powers back and keep him out of prison and all that. Never mind all of that. Let's just go to the basic like fact of screenwriting and realize that if Homelander lived, it would have been not a very good story. The whole story of The Boys would have been kind of washed, right? The whole objective for Butcher, one of the main characters, by the way, arguably the main protagonist, right, was to kill Homelander for what Homelander did. And if Homelander didn't die, then Butcher ultimately failed his objective, and therefore the story ultimately landed in failure. And a complete story was gonna kill Homelander all the time, and Butcher was a little bit more iffy, but ultimately I do think it was a good decision to kill Butcher, and it makes sense for the story. But like the take that Homelander should have survived is actually like delusional, and anyone who says that, I think probably shouldn't be screenwriters, and I don't think I've seen many screenwriters having that take, but still, I feel very passionate about that Homelander needed to die in that final episode, and that, maybe if you think that Homelander should have survived The Boys, then I guess that's why you're not a screenwriter. So that's my take on The Boys. I think that like the standouts this season were obviously Homelander, Butcher. I think Huey. I think in the beginning of the season, Huey had nothing to do. Huey was kind of pointless and dumb. But I think by the end of the season that he came through. And of course, love Mother's Milk. I actually think The Deep was good this season too. Obviously, like, bad person, but I think his like character arc was good in this season. Black Noir 2 should not have died the way he did. That was really kind of lame. And then Oh Father was a good character as well. Also had like a pretty epic conclusion, but not to the same extent as Homelander and The Deep, in my opinion. I don't know. And like there are some questions, sure, like why did Homelander seem nerfed in the final fight against Butcher? And like why did The Deep not, like The Deep should have been able to swim super fast, right? But and this is not to like make an excuse for the writers, right? But I think at the end of the day, they reached the conclusion they needed to, and it was entertaining to watch. And I think that is what's important in this scenario. It's fun to watch, and like you can like suspend your disbelief a little bit. And again, it wasn't perfect. There's probably like a way they could have explained the reason Homelander was nerfed. They could have tried to make it like a mistake that Annie accidentally took him to the beach or something, like maybe The Deep fought Annie in the sky and it like set her off course and they landed at the beach. I don't know. There are some things that like there are shortcomings for sure, but ultimately I enjoyed the final episode. If not the final season, at least I did the final episode. So what do you guys think? Did you guys enjoy The Boys? Did you think it came to a good conclusion? Did you enjoy it? Am I wrong? Did you enjoy the entire final season and not just the finale? Or are you in the camp that the finale just sucked all around? Let me know in the comments down below. Obviously, like, this is, like, subjective. Art is subjective, so, like, it's always fun to have these kind of discussions. Although, if you think Homelander should have survived, then this might not be the comment section for you. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.